All right. Welcome to the Decisions Daily Lunch and Learn. It looks like we already have some people in attendance. So if everyone's ready, let's go ahead and dive right into it. Let's see, we did have a question. So we have a couple questions already submitted. So we're going to go ahead and start with those. Let's see, Sabrina, let's see, do we already have, has Lindsay Wesley joined the call already?
No.
Don't see her here yet. Let's see if we have any of the other pre-submitted questions already here.
I believe
Okay,
Janice.
I see Janice here. Awesome. So Janice, you submitted a question about how to essentially enforce an approval matrix, right? Or how to control the routing of a particular form. So let's go ahead and start with that because it's a pretty common use case, and I think one that's pretty educational for everyone that's on the call. So can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Looks good.
Fantastic. So what I wanted to do is kind of just open up a baseline, very basic flow, right? And what we have currently is just a particular form. Now, if I were to go ahead and run this in debugger, you would see that if I open the form, it's just displaying the user's email address that's running the flow currently. Now, this could be something that is pre-populated based off of the flow data. It could be something that you have, users enter. It could be populated by a dropdown, right? Regardless of how you're getting this information, as long as you have a way on the form to capture who it is that's approving the request, then we can use that to basically set up a rule and then set up your routing accordingly. So let's go ahead and look into that. So from here, right, the next step that we would want to do is add a truth table, right? And the nice thing about a truth table is the number of options you have to set up how that data is going to come in and what you want to do with it downstream. So we'll go ahead and we'll create a new one, and we're just going to call this our example approval matrix. Now, the very first thing you want to do is you want to establish what your input data is going to be, right? In this case, we know that our input data is probably going to be, a user email address. So I could come in here and we'll say, approving party email. We'll go ahead and save. And now you want to just start kind of establishing the logic that you're going to enforce with your rule, right? So we could come in here and we could say that we have our approving party email. And what we're interested in is, does it, equal a particular value? So in this case, we'll just say, is it this value or not? And here, you have several options again. You can provide constant values. In this case, let's say, for example, I want to know if the person who approved the form is curtisroot@decisions.com. Now, for your particular use case, if you're kind of already integrated with Active Directory, or you have some other way of kind of knowing who these applicants are going to be for your approval matrix, it doesn't have to be constant data, right? You could externalize this information if you gave this more inputs, and you could, for example, say, is the approving party just part of a group, right? Is this, approving party part of team A? And if it's part of team A, it will then always go to this manager. So from here, let's talk about our outputs. Our output, again, is going to be some sort of value that we can use to identify who should be receiving the next form. So if we go ahead and click here, we can go ahead and edit this information. We'll change it from the default Boolean to a string value. We'll say OK. And what we want to do here is we could say, OK, well, this is all, if it's approved by Curtis, then we're going to go ahead and route this to our admin@decisions.com. And you can talk, here you have the option to specify, if there is no outcome. You could have, for example, some manager that receives it if it's a new party that you hadn't yet included as people who could approve the form. So again, here we'll come in and we'll say this can be Tim Stahl@decisions.com. Right? And that's all you need at a basic level, right, to make your approval matrix, right? You could, of course, add in additional rows. We could say here, this is going to be person B@decisions.com. And if person B approves it, it's going to be routed to Jessica. Now from here, if I were to close and save, and it's going to ask you, right? We established what that input would be. It's going to ask us to specify that, and we're just going to say it's going to be the output of the previous form. So we'll take that username value, whatever it is. We'll then route it into the truth table, and as an output of that truth table, we'll then know, the email address for who it needs to go to next. So now we'll add in a downstream form. We'll call this our manager form. And this will be a very basic form. We're just going to allow them to approve it. Now, this next part is kind of the last kind of complex piece that we need to figure out. Now, by default, any form that you add to your workflow is going to be an in-session form, right? And what we want to do here is we want to actually assign this. So we're going to say we're going to go ahead and assign it. And here you can only really specify users statically. So what we're really interested in is going to our assignment setup. And from here, you can specify which accounts or groups are going to be in your list of who you're going to route this to. So from here, let's go ahead and we're going to build an array. And we're just going to be interested in one value. So we'll say select from flow. And we're going to use the output, right, of our truth table. So it's going to look something like this. And then from here, you can just fill in the basic information. We're going to call this assignment our approval form. And the options that they have are to review. Now, this is a very basic workflow. Let's see if we can get it to pick up the assignment that we built. It does. So that was a very basic, kind of high level view. Does that answer your question, Janice?
Yep, perfect.
Sorry, Janice, I couldn't really hear you. What was that?
Yeah, that answered it.
Excellent, perfect. Okay, so we will go then, we'll move on to our next question. And let's see, I don't believe that they have shown up yet. So, but we'll kind of hold that off until the end. Let's see, so we have another submitted question. And this is from the last name Balta, perfect. And so you were interested in knowing if I created an assignment flow for a guest user account, and in the form you're using the AssignToGuest, and you have a save button where the guest user can save his work and resume later. How can you I wonder how to either close or hide the form when the guest user clicks on the save button.
Yes, so exactly this is the issue which I have. Everything works fine. The form, when I send the assignment to the guest user get the assignment, everything works fine. The only issue which I have is this: they can't save their work. I mean, I put a save button. When they click save, what's happened, the decision is sending a new URL, but I don't care. It's working fine. So what the guest user has to do is to take the new URL and their work is saved. But the issue here is this: when they click save, the form is still there, and I wonder what mechanism to use to close the form.
So to make sure I'm understanding your question correctly, they have a form opened up on their UI, and when they hit save, the button, like the form just stays there. It's not actually closing out. They can't continue on the process.
Yes, and I know why the form stays there. I can't tell you why, because I am using a placeholder for the saving process. So what I do when you click save, I use a placeholder, and that's fine. The work is saved. But the form does not close, does not hide, which makes sense. But my question is there a way to do this?
So let me build something out and make sure that I'm representing your current flow appropriately. and then we'll go ahead and we'll figure out a solution. So you have something that kind of looks like this, right? Where if I'm looking at my form, I see here that if a user clicks the save button, and then you have it routing to, this, what you called a placeholder step. And we'll actually use a placeholder step for now.
Exactly.
And this placeholder, whatever it might be, is then routing, is it routing back into your form, or where is it being routed?
No, it's routing back into the form.
Okay. So then I think, if I'm understanding correctly, your issue is that, as soon as you get through this, you're then basically assigning it to that user as a guest, right?
You are right. You are right. I mean, it's assigning to itself. Let's talk technical. I believe is this: the user, when it saved the button, click the save button. Actually, what the user is doing, I am talking about the guest one, is he's assigning to itself. That's
Precisely.
the point.
Yep. So what I'm going to try to build out for you here is an example. And on your assigned form, right, you have the option to assign to a guest, right?
Yes.
The problem is that if something's assigned to the same person, right? Like, let's just say that I had this set to be assigned, and I have it, or even better, let's just do in session, right? Because that's basically what's happening. Is that if I approve this, right? Let's jump in here, and let's say that I go ahead and save this. You can see that even though it left, it just opened it right back up, right? So your guest session is basically working as an in-session assignment, right? And so what we need to first do is terminate that initial guest session. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So let's go ahead. I'm gonna have to look for the steps here, and then Tim, if you're listening and if you know the step already, feel free to point it out if anyone already knows it. But what we're looking for is we want to basically force it to create a new guest session, which would then force it to kind of update the assignment so that they have the option. So the form will close, and two, they can come back to it later, right? Which is what you would expect.
Yes,
with
that's.
save
I don't
functionality.
want to lose this. Yes, you're right.
Precisely.
The reason why I have the save button is to save the work. That's the point.
Yeah, I think your naming convention makes sense to me. Let's go ahead. So there's going to be a step here. It might take me some time to dig for it.
It's
So-
a end form session.
Yeah, Tim said.
Yeah, I threw it in the chat, but it's a end form session. I think is what you're looking for.
Very possible. Let's take a look here. Here we go. And we'll just give this a basic, thank you for saving, right? Okay. And now from here, right, let's actually go ahead and we're going to make this an assignment, right? And an assignment would mimic that guest session. So we'll go ahead, we're going to assign this to myself. Okay, and then once this is complete and updated and validated, what we want to do is on another tab, let's go ahead and open up my inbox so we can see if I receive any assignments. Okay, so you can see here that by default it opens up because I'm the user here, but I could, if I wanted to, let's go ahead and just close this for now, come back here and refresh. And so here you can see I have my assignment in my inbox. So let's go ahead and navigate it from here. So here I have my form. Let's go ahead and hit save. And let's see here. No path defined for the outcome of save. Let's take a look. See here, did it not update my form or my down the save path?
You might want to save and exit out of the flow designer and come back in.
Yeah, let's give that a shot. All right, let's go ahead and give this one. And you know what we will do just to make decisions happy is we'll have a save. Let's go ahead and make a complete button as well for when they're done. That way we don't get any flow validation errors popping up at us. And we'll just go straight to the end once they're done. All right, let's take a look. So here, again, we're going to close it here because we want to work from our inbox for this. Okay, and here I can choose to save or finish. Let's go ahead and save. And you can see here how I now have a new assignment, right? Instead of opening up immediately, it's going to ask me if I want to open that assignment because we have effectively saved it. So this is the step you're missing in your flow currently. You need to end that guest session so that when it routes back to them, it's going to basically instantiate a new guest session for you.
The other thing too is if you go back to the flow designer and edit the properties of that end form session step, if you go over to your options there, one of them is display a message, but the other under your behavior there, you can actually say close, and that'll actually just close it out.
There we go.
And you could also set your form, your add task step. If you click on that and go into your advanced or your assignment setup, excuse me. If you scroll down here, you'll see where it says automatically show if
Right,
assigned.
yeah.
You can change that to never, and then it won't pop back up either.
Fantastic. I think that answers your question.
Yeah.
Do you have any
I-
follow-ups or anything else you want
No,
to
no,
know?
I agree. I totally agree with him. But the only difference between me and what you are doing here is I am using guest, not the assignment. So some of the options available for the type assignment that are not available for the guest. That's the only difference. But I believe it's worked for me if I use the end form. I believe it's working with the end form.
Precisely. In the case that we set up, it should be analogous, regardless of whether or not it's an assigned or guest session.
Yeah.
It should work for you all the same.
Yeah. So I think this end form, which I missed, will address my issue.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very confident, and if it doesn't, you can always reach out to us and we will resolve it for you.
Yeah, the question which I have is, and I mentioned there, I was looking to send a reminder. Now, somebody from your team told me how to use the reminder. The only concern which I have is, but first of all, let's study it and see how it works, and then I will come back later. So I want to thank you for now.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And if you have follow-up questions, let us know. Especially if you have questions about the reminders, because we can definitely get that sorted out for you.
So thank you for now. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, now I'm looking, so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sabrina, but I think we've gone over all of the pre-submitted questions, at least for those that are currently in attendance. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and open it up. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they'd like to see while we're here? That's all right. So while we are thinking, or while we're waiting for people to come up with questions, I see that we have a few people from the decisions team on the call as well. I know, let's see here. Kevin, why don't you come up or give us a question of something you think would be interesting to show while we're waiting for some other questions to come up. And if you're trying to talk, Kevin, you are currently on mute. All right, Sabrina, I think maybe I'm not seeing the questions come in if there are any. Do you think that there's a topic that we want to cover based off of the slide deck we showed earlier?
Yeah, I believe if you want to tell everyone about decisions days, that might be awesome.
Let's see here. So if you haven't had a chance to register yet, and you're looking for something that goes a little bit more in depth and is a little bit more personal than these daily lunch and learns, October 4th through 6th, we're going to have our yearly decisions days, right? And this is an opportunity to come meet with all of the, employees at Decisions, all the people that make this amazing product, and also have all of your questions answered for some really interesting topics. Topics included already. We're going to be talking about how to identify what to automate next, right? So if you're trying to continuously improve your process, how is it that you identify, a current, a major bottleneck or something that might be kind of, that might be the next appropriate task to, fix and automate with Decisions. We'll be talking about how to build industry applications on Decisions. I will, I will be giving a lecture on decisions and artificial intelligence, right? How to sequence and consume machine learning models with Decisions workflows. And if I do say so myself, that's going to be a really interesting seminar to attend.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a shameless, selfless plug there. And then we'll also have a couple of other, workshops that are going to include the intelligent service orchestration. With, and all these will include, lessons learned. So you can learn from others' mistakes if you come and join us.
And one thing to mention too is if you swim out to our website at decisions.com/events, you'll see the link to it there. But you also notice in our agenda that's been released, you don't have to pick just one or the other topics to go to. You actually, the way we've scheduled it this year, you actually have the ability to meet all and actually attend all of them. So again, it's take a look at that agenda out there. It's going to be a fun time in Norfolk.
All right. So I think, of course, we host our Decisions Lunch and Learn Monday through Thursday. So if something comes up as soon as we close the call, which is pretty common, at least when I'm on a call, then feel free to show up tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and we will fix your problems. Thanks everyone for attending, and I will see you all next time.